This is On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross, a weekly recap of the 2021 Philadelphia Flyers from blue line to blue line. Broadcasting live from Chickies and Pete's, tonight's show is brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions, Hand and Stone Spa, The Capitol Grill, Pat Dion Beverages, Independence Blue Cross, Chickies and Pete's, and Joseph Anthony Salon and Day Spa. We now go live to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyers captain Keith Primeau.
And welcome everybody to WBCB's On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross from the beautiful Chickies and Pete's here in Marlton. Got the World Baseball Classic, 8 million other NFL things on TV, hockey and every other sport you can imagine. It's light outside. Daylight savings time has started, and we got a heavy crowd and a lot of fun. We got some great guests and great co-hosts tonight. My co-host, former Flyer captain, and I just found out coached our guest at one point in his career, Mr. Keith Primeau. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. I threw you a little curveball. I wasn't supposed to be here this week, but changed things up.
Curveballs, you got to hit the curveball. You play in the major leagues, got to be able to hit the curve. Otherwise, you're a AAA fastball hitter. Yeah. This next guy is with the Flyers, scored a couple goals this year. He'll get a surprise a little later on as well. He is a left wing from Minnesota, the first-round pick in the New York Islanders in the 2016 NHL draft, and a terrific kid from the 10 minutes I've known him, Mr. Kieffer Bellows. How are you?
Good. How about you?
Doing very well, thanks. Kieffer, obviously the question, and we're not going to harp on this. We're a fun show. We're not 60 Minutes. You guys are having a rough year, but to me, someone like you who's played very well with the Phantoms and Lappy, who was our guest 2 weeks ago, can use this as an opportunity, like Keith's son Caden, we'll talk about, to sharpen up your game, play some at the major league level. You're up here now. How does that play into your thought process this year?
Yeah, it's been a while since I was down in the American League there, but when I went back down, it was good. It helped me get my confidence back, helped me get my scoring touch back, and I think that really kind of helped my all-around game just coming back up here and playing. I think it just, when you go down there, obviously Lappy does a great job down there. They're doing really well. They're in the playoff run right now, but Lappy just, preached to me, be reliable defensively, but, let your offensive instincts show, and that's what I wanted to do. And, I try to bring that up here while also being reliable for Coach Tortorella and just, try to get some offense going for my teammates.
Keith, Lappy might be the best person I know in sports. He's right at the dinner table if he's not. And he went into coaching after playing. Torts obviously doing a nice job with the Flyers this year. You, I didn't realize, coached, but apparently you coached the spring team with Mr. Bellows as part of it. Care to share that with the listeners?
Yeah, so my two boys, Chase, 97 birth year, and Caden, the 99 birth year, I coached them all the way up through youth hockey here locally in Pennsauken for Team Comcast and what's now the Flyers Elite. And I also had a program with my brother, Wayne, in the summertime where we put together...
When you weren't fighting him during
the
game.
Exactly. Post-fight. And we would put together high-level spring teams for select tournaments. And Kieffer's dad, Brian, former player, reached out to me one winter and said, "Hey, listen, I've got these top kids out of Minnesota. You have any interest?" I'm like, "I guess I do." And they joined me for a tournament in Toronto with some of my kids that I coach here. Safe to say we won that tournament. We had some pretty good players, and some of the other guys that came with Kieffer were Joey Anderson, who's now in Chicago. Maddie Kierstead, where's Maddie?
Florida.
Maddie's that's right. Maddie's in Florida. So 3 of the 5 kids that came from Minnesota are playing in the NH. 4. Ryan Lindgren was the other one. So 4 of the 5 are playing in the National Hockey League, and it was always fun. I really enjoyed coaching at the youth level and impart some of my wisdom. And those kids came with they didn't need much teaching.
Do you have any aspirations to coach at the pro level?
So when Chase and Caden left to go play junior in the USHL, I was the first year I took off in about 10 years, and I took it off, 1, so I could chase them around, and 2, to see how passionate I was about coaching, see if I really missed it, and if it was something that I wanted to do. And I end up not missing being behind the bench. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy to be a coach at any level. I had some opportunity during the course of those years, and all my business ventures I could have got out of. The one commitment I couldn't get out of was volunteer coaching at the youth level. It's amazing. I mean, parents really commit, and so you feel that you need to commit in return. Well,
let me interrupt you for 1 second. Everybody that I know that coaches any sport, and I know a million coaches, loves the kids, hates the parents.
Yeah. So that's a fair enough statement. I always try to be proactive on that front and say, listen, you can have an opinion, I just don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And if
my kid's Gretzky playing.
Yeah. And if you feel that you need to have an opinion that much, then go offer to coach your own team.
Yeah. Kieffer. Caden obviously has Keith to look up to as an NHL player. Your father was the second pick in the 1982 NHL draft. Do you have any brothers, by the way?
No, I got an older sister and a younger sister.
Well, let me just ask you a question. If your brother Bob Bellows was playing with the Vegas Golden Knights last night, and he said you want to go, would you fight him during a game like Wayne fought Keith?
I probably have to. You got that rivalry. I mean, if I had a brother at home, I would have fought during mini sticks.
There we are.
Yeah, right. There you go.
How did growing up the son of an NHL player who played 1 million NHL games, very successful, 17-year career, we talk about it with Keith and Caden, how did it influence you and help push you in this direction?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think without, with my dad being there, I wouldn't be the player I am today. I know I wouldn't be, but with having him by my side the whole entire time, coaching me growing up, and just even now supporting me, just asking for advice. I know he's helping me improve every single day, and having him back in the day was awesome. Having him as a coach, obviously he's always going to be there to support me, but he was hard on me. He was one of the hardest people, growing up on me my whole entire life. But I think my mom Tracy as well was also a huge impact on me. She was the one that. When my dad was working, she was getting up early, driving me to practice at the 6 a.m., 7 a.m.s, and big car full of kids, taking them to the long tournaments. So without both of them, I wouldn't be where I am today.
And Keith, you guys share another thing, that Keith is a Canadian, obviously, who came here a long time ago. Kids grew up here. Your father's Canadian. You went to Minnesota, where he played, and you grew up there. When you were in junior tournaments for the United States, I'm assuming blood is thicker than the flag. Who'd your dad root for?
I think it's tough. I think growing up, obviously my dad was always cheering for Canada when I wasn't playing, but I think he was cheering for me at the World Juniors, and I think for a while there maybe he did don a USA jacket just to support me, and then as soon as the tournament was over, it was back in the closet.
Same thing with you, Keith?
So I always looked at it as a no-lose situation. I'm always winning, but yeah, I mean, blood is clearly thicker than the flag, and I was the same way when Caden played for the U.S. at the World Juniors. I was behind Caden 100%, and those are great experiences.
Let me just mention one other thing where blood is thicker than whatever. The Flyers' new general manager, we'll talk about in a minute, Danny Briere, who's a great kid, been on this show many times, had obviously an incident with his son last weekend, made a statement today, which is all we'll say about it. We're not here to out anybody or be a 60 Minutes type program. I was shocked, Danny said, I was shocked to see Carson's action in the video that was shared on social media yesterday. They're inexcusable and run completely counter to our family's values on treating people with respect. Carson is very sorry and accepts full responsibility for his behavior. That's Danny's statement. Had nothing to do with the Flyers. They will move on, obviously. And we'll move on also with Caden and Keith.
Kieffer,
excuse me. Caden, what do I
know you like Caden, huh?
I like Caden, but I don't know why I think he's here. Kieffer, this never happens. I don't know.
Oh, it's all good.
I apologize. So if I said to you, let's play a little word association. I'll say something, just come up with the first thing that pops into your mind. John Tortorella.
Coach.
Don't want to go too much further than that, huh?
He is the coach.
He is the coach. I mean, last night, I went to the game last night, and in his presser afterwards, he was very honest about it. I like his honesty. I appreciate people who tell the truth.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not what you want to say or what anybody else wants to hear. You guys are going through a frustrating season. You have to make sure that the rest of the season is not a death march, that people still have effort and are going into, the corners of little things, and he said they were. But you could tell there was a frustration on his, and he's human, so naturally there would be. How do you deal with that when you're going to miss the playoffs, barring a mathematical miracle, and playing for next year? How does the team stay up? Morgan Frost and guys in the locker room were talking about that. How do you stay involved?
Yeah, I think obviously it is a tough year. Not making the playoffs is obviously hard on us, but I think the main thing we try to focus on is just building for next year. Trying to play well with the systems, trying to build on top of everyone's game, helping each other improve, and building on top of the systems that Coach Tortorella is giving us, and just trying to build on it for next year so that we can start next year off strong and get to the playoffs. I think that's obviously the main goal. Everyone's beginning of the year goal is to make the playoffs, and then you got another goal after that is to win the cup, and you just take it step by step. And I think Coach Tortorella and the rest of the coaches have done a good job of just helping us build on each other and just take the positives from each game and build on those, but then any negatives from the game, working on those in practice and in video.
Is it fair to say, and either one of you guys can answer this to start with, it appears to me that Coach Tortorella, he's known for a lot of the statements he makes to the media, which may not be the best or whatever, but I think what his motive is, most of the time, I'm sure not all the time, is to protect his players, to give his 2 cents to the media, and he doesn't really care what he says to us, which he shouldn't, and to protect his players and to make sure you can be the best you can be. Is that a fair statement, Kieffer?
Yeah, I believe so. Torts wants to protect us and keep the locker room the way it is, and just we're a team, and that's the way it's supposed to be. We're there for one another.
Is that fair, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, when I had my fair share of sparring matches with the media over my time here, but
and you were honest too. I got to give it to you.
Yeah, and that was and sometimes too honest, and sometimes too honest in the defense of my teammates. But I also felt that it was important to get out in front of those situations, and if your team doesn't play well, you've got to get out there and face the music, and it makes it worse when you cower.
One thing I respect about you, Keith, a lot. Flyers would lose a game 10-0. When you had a good team, lose 10-0, take 99 shots on goal, 29 penalties, and you would stand there after the game and answer every question anybody had for you. Stand-up guys are really appreciated by a lot of people.
Yeah, listen. I've said this before. I wasn't that way early in my career. I grew a lot over the course of my career, and one, in how I handle my teammates, and two, how I handle the fans, and three, how I handle the media, and all of them are part of the dynamic, right? It's all part of your responsibility. You're not just a hockey player. You're a hockey player with these responsibilities, and so I always felt that at the end of my career, I always felt it was important to get out there and stand up and say it like it is, and like you said, it's appreciated much more.
Last night at the Flyer game, Flyers played the Golden Knights, played their butts off, finally losing 5-3 after an empty net goal, which showed the try-hard factor the Flyers had, and we'll talk with Kieffer in a minute about that. But as far as Caden goes, I was watching the first period, looked at the hockey scores. Montreal's down 2-0 after 8 seconds. I don't know how that happens. And I texted you, is it time for Caden? Obviously, he's playing with Laval. You can't bring him into a game where he's not. But Montreal doesn't seem to have Ken Dryden in goal, with Carey Price kind of ending his career. Is it time for Caden to get a shot?
Well, Jake Allen and Sam Montembeault in their defense have been good for Montreal this year. They faced same thing. They faced a lot of shots in Montreal, and so some nights you're gonna give up 4 or 5, and you still hope like last night that they end up winning the game 6-4, in a game that they were outshot 2-1. But Caden Caden has marinated for me long enough in the American Hockey League, and
he's ready to go in the oven, huh?
Yeah, and so I really like to see him get an opportunity. They're in the playoff race themselves in Laval, so every game has meaning. So those experiences are good too. But there's nothing like playing at the National Hockey League level with the shooters. No,
the National Hockey League is unto its own, but for Kieffer, you might think college hockey. Caden played at Northeastern. One of the amazing things that I know about, unless you're a dyed-in-the-wool hockey fan, you may not. You went to Edina High School, I guess, which is a suburb of Minneapolis. It should be called Hockeytown, USA. How many people, when you won the Minnesota State Championship, I think as a sophomore, I was in Minnesota for the Super Bowl, and I asked a couple people about this. How many people would go when you had a game at the Wilds Arena? How many people would go to your high school hockey games for the state playoffs?
I know in the finals we had sold out 20,000 people.
Sold out for a high school game. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. And they're doing it for semifinal games. Even this year, Edina and Minnetonka were in the final, and sold out again, and even the Class Single A, which normally didn't have as big of a draw as the Double A, but they had a sold out crowd as well. So it's getting even bigger.
Have you ever experienced the high school hockey weekend?
No, it's amazing.
I've done it once, and it is a sight to see. For high school hockey, they're selling out a 20,000 seat building, and it's absolutely incredible.
It is amazing. I do have one problem with Kieffer that I have to mention. When we were at the Super Bowl again, the Mall of America, which is unbelievable and has a roller coaster in it, whatever. But Kieffer, it's a horrible roller coaster. Not going to be confused with anything at Great Adventure or anywhere else. I know it's not your fault, but do you take responsibility for this?
I got no comment.
Growing up there, when it was, we talk about the easy winter we had, and we'll take a break in a second, but I want to get this through to you. We had a very easy winter, no snow here. You guys from Minnesota laugh at people like us when it's 25. We start to bundle up and freeze and complain and whine. What's a bad day in Minnesota? You have a long winter. It's longer than here. Obviously more snow and everything else. What's a bad Minnesota day? Where you actually get upset that, oh, my God, this is horrible.
I don't know. It's been a while since I've been back, but I know when I talk to my parents every single day, and my mom and dad have told me, partly this winter the wind chill has been like -20, -30. So, they don't leave the place too much. There's no reason to, but they just got another 5-6 inches of snow the other day.
My wife made me buy a winter jacket when I went to the Super Bowl, Keith, and it was 30 degrees below zero with the wind chill. And to me, that is just. I don't get cold basically ever, but that was real cold.
Two coldest places I ever played were Minneapolis and Winnipeg. And we would stay at the old Met Center, when it was the North Stars, when his dad was there. We would stay at the hotel literally across the parking lot.
But you had inside. You had a tunnel over it, didn't you?
No. You'd have to walk. We would literally get a taxi, or take the bus across the parking lot to the rink. It was that cold.
Wow. The travails are growing up in a cold weather environment. We're going to take a break here, come back, talk about the Flyers general manager situation. Obviously, that's flipped in the last week. You're listening to On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross, live from Chickies and Pete's right here in Marlton, right here on 1490 WBCB. We love it here. It is time now for the Independence Blue Cross Live Fearless Player of the Week. This week, it is our guest, Kieffer Bellows, for scoring his second NHL goal of his career last Saturday versus Pittsburgh. Congratulations, Kieffer. Remember to choose Independence Blue Cross today and begin to live fearless like Kieffer Bellows, our guest, Keith Primeau, our co-host on WBCB's On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Come back and say hi. Come up and see these two right after this.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. It's all new and it's all for you. The heated deck at Chickie and Pete's on the Boulevard is now open. It's enclosed, heated, and perfect for the ultimate in-game experience or live music when the best local bands take the stage. Like LeComp, Fat Mez, or Jameson. Check our website for the band schedule. The heated deck at Chickie and Pete's on the Boulevard is now open every Thursday through Sunday. Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Learn more about your coverage options at ibx.com.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyers captain Keith Primeau.
Having a good time here at Chickies and Pete's. People coming up and getting Keith's and Kieffer's autographs and having a good time at Chickies, where we'll be next week. I'll be in Vegas next week for my little annual vacation. I'll have a new co-host, Brad Marsh, next week, and a new host. Stay tuned for that. We'll have a Flyer with us, and 29th in 2 weeks we'll have former general manager Paul Holmgren as we continue the hockey season and On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. It's time now for the Smart Stat of the Week, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. That's 1-866-PAY-EASY. Talk to Danny. This week it's one what? One new general manager, Danny Briere. Best of luck to Danny, and we'll see how the rebuild goes. That's a word they got to use because that's what they got to do. That was your Flyers Smart Stat of the Week, brought to you once again by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for the smart choice in payroll services. Payroll Service Solutions, catering to the small and medium-sized business to handle all of your payroll needs. Call them once again at 1-866-PAY-EASY. Kieffer Bellows, our guest, now the Jeopardy portion of our program. Kieffer, you won a new car, not a real car, but a new car. If you get this right. Keith was the third pick in the 1990 NHL draft. Keith can tell you that entire draft. The 935th pick, Gord Wazingo from wherever. We'll see how well you know your father's. Father was taken by the Minnesota North Stars, number 2 in the 1982 draft. The first pick in that draft was?
It was a defenseman. Boston picked him.
Correct.
Kluzak?
Gord Kluzak, very good. You didn't warn him, did you, Keith?
I did not.
That was very, very good. Who's the third pick, as long as you got that? Who's after your dad?
Oh, God, this could be anywhere. I know a lot of his...
Toronto.
Toronto.
Yep.
You may not get this one.
I don't know if I'll get it. Told me Toronto, I kind of blanked on it. I know a lot of his Kitchener teammates went in that same draft. It was him, but I don't know.
Gary Nyland.
Oh, I wouldn't
have got that. And then Ron
that.
Sutter with the Flyers, the fourth pick. Rich Sutter also in that draft.
Scotty Stevens would have played with your dad in Kitchener then.
Yep.
Who else was on that?
Phil Housley taking 6?
No, he wasn't. He was out of high school.
McInnes? Was that his draft?
Here's the whole thing, guys.
There's the first round. Al was a first rounder, so he wasn't that year.
All right, well, while these guys peruse the 1982 NHL draft.
I love that history stuff.
Flyers have a new general manager, guys, Danny Briere. Listen, I said this last week, Keith. I don't know why the Flyers let Chuck Fletcher go through the trade deadline if they're going to whack him. And in my opinion, James Van Riemsdyk, who's been on this show, a stand-up guy, terrific guy in the locker room, absolutely ridiculous how he wasn't traded at the deadline. Get something for him. Chuck obviously overshot the market, refused to admit a rebuild, aggressive retooling, a lot of bumble-jumbo, to be blunt. And I don't ever want anybody to get fired from their job, but the Flyers did fire Chuck Fletcher, hired Danny Briere. It's a new era. Obviously, you need talent to win hockey games. You need talent in any sport. Danny had a great 17-year career, real tough playoff player. What was your first reaction when you heard about the news last Friday?
Honestly, very indifferent. I know Danny personally, and I just think that in those roles, there's a period of maturity and experience, and I don't know if he's gone through the full battery of those experiences, and so I think those are going to create their own challenges, early on. If you can get through those and weather that, then he'll be okay.
Draft, free agency,
other general managers,
yep.
And so he's going to have his head on a swivel out of the gate here. But listen, I hope he has success because we all want to see the Flyers be successful.
Kieffer, obviously we're not going to ask you what you think of Danny, but you have a new GM that you're playing for, trying to impress him. What is a team? I mean, I don't know if you guys talked about this in the locker room. Obviously, you talked about Chuck Fletcher's firing, unless you're not human. But when you talked about that, as far as you personally going forward, you have a new GM to impress, kind of a fresh start. He was here as an assistant, obviously with Maine. But what's your MO when something changes at the top?
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone notices the change, like you said. But I think in everyday life for us, we're hockey players. We're in our routine. We wake up, we work out, practice, and then game days we just kind of stick with the same routine. And we're still playing for one another. And obviously, I wish the best to Danny, and wish him all the success, because obviously his success leads to our success as well, and vice versa. But I think we're just taking it day by day. Trying to win games.
Both of you guys, this question. I've never asked you this before, Keith, but Ray Lewis, great Hall of Fame linebacker with the Baltimore Ravens, was once asked how much money he gets asked to play in the NFL to play. He goes, well, I got to answer that question two ways. He goes, I get paid to practice Monday to Saturday. I play for free on Sundays. Practice is what they pay me for. How do you avoid, Kieffer and Keith, after this, how do you avoid the drudgery of practice, realizing it makes you better, builds the team, does a million things? Obviously, it has to happen. But how do you play in practice the same way you play in games? Because everybody talks about you practice like you play.
Yeah, I think for me personally, when I go out there to practice, I just know that, the little stuff that you're going to be working on, not just in the drills, but what you're working on before and after practice are really going to, as time goes on, become habits of yours that you're going to take into the games. And, I know the guys, we come to work every day, and I think that's the big thing. I know these guys, they all work hard. They're all, trying their best and, doing whatever they can every single day. And, practices, a lot of the time at the NHL level right now, you don't get as many practices as you want, but I think that's why we emphasize it even more when we get a chance to do it.
You had an off day today, right?
Yep.
Would you take advantage of? You mentioned what you did before.
Yeah, if I went played some golf, swung the clubs around. It was cold though, so it was a little rough out there.
You're from Minnesota. It's not cold.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't too bad.
Wave in Minnesota.
It was cold for the shorts that he had on.
It was cold for the shorts. That's true. How were you at practice, Keith?
So I had to practice hard. If I didn't prepare myself in practice, I wasn't ready for games.
As hard as Allen Iverson did, we all know about that presser.
We're talking about practice. We actually had a good laugh with that one because I was here when Allen had that tirade. But I'm a firm believer that you certainly play the way you practice, and I think back to when Craig Ramsey was here and he was giving us days off, and he was resting us. He's like, you got to have rest. We play so much. This Ken Hitchcock philosophy. And Hitchcock's philosophy was, yes, you need lots of rest and lots of days off, but when you are practicing, you practice hard. And Rammer was like, no, you need that. And we were out of shape when he got let go, and Billy Barber took over. Billy went on to win the Jack Adams that year as Coach of the Year, because all he did was skate us every day. And we were doing mountains in practice at the National Hockey League level, and we were like shaking. But we needed to be conditioned. And when we got in shape, we had a good team. So there's, and that was, it wasn't the epiphany for me, but that was affirmation that you really have to compete hard in practice to be ready to play in games.
Kieffer, your team was dealt a rough hand this year, obviously towards first year, and you had a terrible year, to be blunt about it. But Sean Couturier, Ryan Ellis, Cam Atkinson, now Travis Connect in the last couple of weeks. It doesn't help that a couple of deck chairs got thrown off the Queen Mary that were pretty good. How frustrating is that? And obviously you can't control injuries, but how much has that played into your season?
Yeah, I think obviously when I came here from New York, there was a lot of injuries, even more than those guys going on. And, anytime a team gets injuries of especially guys that are that level of players that make such an impact on the ice and that have such an impact in the locker room, it most definitely puts a wrench in things. But, I think with those injuries, though, we got to see a lot of guys step up and show what their potential are, such as Morgan Frost, Owen Tippett, Noah Cates, and I think there were so many guys that stepped up in the replacement of those that, showed that they could be regular NHLers, and I think that was great to see.
You guys got some good young players, and I want to go to an area now that we've talked about before, Keith. I have to ask Keith for this. I like getting everybody's opinion on this. One thing, I love everything about the NHL except for one thing, the hideous nicknames. Mike Richards, Richie, Scott Lawton, Lots. Come on, those aren't nicknames. Chris Terry and Bundy, that's a nickname. Kieffer, you can't just chop a couple letters off a last name, add S or Y. Do you agree with me that hockey has a hideous nickname culture?
I don't know. It's not bad. I think, guys have nicknames. Guys have special nicknames.
What's your nickname, for example?
Guys just call me Belly.
I was going to say, don't say
Belly?
Bells.
No, yeah, just
That's
just
dropping the
Belly.
last couple
Preems,
of.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That doesn't bother you?
No, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. It's funny now, like, even when, I talk to, my parents or my girlfriend, I was talking to them today, and I just said, like, oh, yeah, like, I'm with Yorkie or, Forey or these guys, and they're like, or one time I said to my dad, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm driving Cam home. He's like, who? And I was like, oh, Yorkie, and he goes, oh, got it.
There we are. All righty. We'll talk much more with Kieffer Bellows, Keith Primeau. As we move on, take another quick break now, come back. We'll find out how life in the NHL is different than life in the AHL. Kieffer Bellows picked up on waivers from the Islanders earlier this year, established himself at left wing in the NHL. This is the Independence Blue Cross on the ice from Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, New Jersey. We will be right back right after this. Stay with us.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. It's all new and it's all for you. The heated deck at Chickie and Pete's on the Boulevard is now open. It's enclosed, heated, and perfect for the ultimate in-game experience or live music when the best local bands take the stage. Like LeComp, Fat Mez, or Jameson. Check our website for the band schedule. The heated deck at Chickie and Pete's on the Boulevard is now open every Thursday through Sunday. Chickies and Pete's.
I'm always striving to live my healthiest life, so I need a health plan that has my back. With Independence Blue Cross, I get access to the largest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free virtual doctor visits 24/7. Plus, with premiums as low as $0 per month, I can stay on top of my health and keep my budget in check. Independence has given me coverage I can count on, and they'll do the same for you. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyers captain Keith Primeau.
All righty, back here at Chickies and Pete's, where the NHL announced today, not here at Chickies and Pete's, but up in Toronto, that the draft lottery will be held May 8th. The Flyers currently in 5th position in that lottery, an 8.5% chance of getting the first pick, which will likely be Connor Bedard, 3 or 4 other big picks there. Kieffer Bellows, you're with a hockey team. People say there's a team tanking down the stretch, not tanking in any sport, whatever. you guys are trying to keep your jobs. You're not worried about who they draft. When somebody says, are you guys tanking? I mean, I don't know if you've ever been asked that question, but when the theory of it comes out, do you explain to people that you're trying to keep your job, not get Connor Bedard a new one?
Yeah, obviously you hear about people talking about it, and you see it in other sports as well. But yeah, I think you got to realize that even a guy like me, I'm on a 1-year deal, and I'm fighting for another job next year, and I'm fighting for a contract, and then there's plenty of other guys on our team that are fighting for jobs as well. So, we don't have any reason to. Everyone's going out there and trying their best, and it's been a rough year, like you said, but we're trying our best. We're doing what we can.
You still, listen, I wanted to play professional sports. God decided that I don't have the talent to do that. A bad day in professional sports is much better than a great day at Lou's Lumber Works, where you're pitching concrete or doing construction. Keith, did you ever lose sight of that fact when you were having a bad year, bad day, injured, how lucky you were to be a professional athlete?
Yeah, for sure. At times it could be daunting. You're going through a tough stretch, or you look at the schedule or the dog days of the season, or kids are sick at home or whatever. There's all kinds of things, and I always felt that when I started to feel the game was going to become a job, there's probably here's a perfect story. My brother, who ended in Toronto.
Didn't you fight him during a game once?
And my son's name is Caden.
Yeah.
I don't even. Now you got me.
The story about the pro athlete having a bad day.
Oh, I can't remember now. You got my.
Something about your brother in Toronto. You said he was in Toronto.
Oh yeah, that's
there
it.
We are.
So it was 2011, and he wasn't getting an opportunity with the Leafs, and he called me and he goes, "Listen, I've got an opportunity to go to Russia for like $700,000 US. What do you think?" And I go, "Honestly, if you're calling me, I think you already know your answer." And he's like, "You're right. I'm not going," because if you're not excited about the opportunity to play, wherever that is, then you need to really reflect and see if that's what you want to do.
That's a great answer and a great segue into the next question, which I was going to ask anyway, but it's good when they fit together. Kieffer, you were in the minors for much of this year with the Phantoms. You're up with the Flyers. You've been with the Flyers a while now. Just fill in this blank for me. We hope you stay up with the Flyers forever, have a wonderful career. You obviously want to have that. A lot of perks to be a professional athlete. The difference between being a AAA player, which is what the American Hockey League is, and an NHL player, the biggest differences are blank.
Oh God, there's a couple that come to mind. I would say it's obviously just, I think it's the way the guys think the game. It's just a little like that quick split second faster. You got to make decisions. When people ask me, I would say that's the big one. It's not always the speed or the skill or any of that stuff, because there's plenty of really good players down there in the American Hockey League. And then, obviously just different travel schedules, and most of the time in the American Hockey League, you're playing on the weekends. You get a little random midweek game, where in the NHL, you're, it's just kind of bouncing around. And then obviously, different, bus rides and all that stuff. So, I spent my good time in the American League in New York, and I got a good couple seasons there, and then spent some time here. And there's just, a few differences, but nothing major.
You played in the AHL for Lappy. Give us a little scouting report on yourself and how Lappy and John Tortorella are helping you get better.
Yeah.
What does Kieffer Bellows do well?
I'd say my big thing is I love to shoot the puck. I love to score goals. It's kind of my big thing. I grew up always wanting to be a shooter and practicing that a lot. I'd say all-around game, though, is a power forward style. I try to use my body, be offensive, but, with Lappy and Coach Tortorella, they've really helped me, fixate on my defensive side of my game and keeping it more simple and just being really hard to play against, and being really good at stick positioning and just being one of those guys that's frustrating to play against, that, when they look over and they're like, oh, I don't want to go against him, and that's something I'm working on.
Obviously, the biggest example of that, I would think, in the NHL, having not been a player myself, a guy like Brad Marchand, who drives you insane. Kieffer, Keith, both of you with this question. Who do you pattern your left wing? Do you pattern your game? Do you take a little from this, a little from that, a little from your dad, I'm sure? Who do you pattern your game after? And Keith, how hard was it to play against guys like Kieffer's trying to be like a Brad Marchand and just drive you friggin' insane? Kieffer, you first.
Yeah, I think when I was getting drafted and going through that whole process, a guy that I really kind of tried to model my game after. Obviously, I'd say my dad. Obviously, we're going to have some similarities in there with him being my dad and all, but I try to play like Jamie Benn a lot. He was a big power forward, the guy that scored a lot of goals, but
Dallas.
he wasn't afraid to get physical or get in the dirty areas, and I think that was a guy I really tried to look up to and just take away a lot of stuff from his game.
Keith, who did you hate to play against?
I hated playing against Bobby Holik.
Bobby Holik?
Bobby Holik,
Had a long career in the NHL.
Yeah, he did. He was a big, strong guy. He used his size. What wasn't, didn't back it up. I think that was probably why it bothered me about him the most. But he found a way to get under my skin a lot. But he used his size, and he had a lot of success doing that.
All right, Kieffer, here's the offbeat program part of our show. We kind of move in and out of offbeat stuff and serious stuff. You play in the NHL. People from around the world play in the NHL. You play with Europeans. Canada and America obviously both speak English. But when a referee calls something on you that you don't agree with, which I'm sure has happened in your career at least once or 10,000 times, how many languages do you know how to curse in? And then does the referee, my buddy who refs in the NHL knows curse words in like 93 languages, and somebody who thinks they get away with it, then they get 2 for unsportsmanlike conduct because he knows them. How many can you curse in?
Oh, I think I got obviously English down. Got some Swedish guys on the team, so I'll go with Swedish and Russian. A couple of Russians I've played with before in New York as well. I'm not very good at it, but I'd like to say I got it down.
You guys play, you're a melting pot, obviously, of different nationalities. How different or how hard is that with people from different cultures assimilating into one here, obviously? Is it different when you played than when Keith played? We'll ask you both. What do you think? How's it now?
Yeah, I mean, even my dad, I've talked to my dad about it before, but even when I was going through the whole draft process, he'd like to say it's grown more into a world draft now, where back in the day, there were still obviously some Europeans, Russians, all those guys, but it was a lot of North American players. But I played with, I think we had 5 Russians on our team in New York at one point, and so I think when those guys have some people around them that are from the same country or speak the same language, it helps them build a comfortability in the locker room and in the league as well. When you played, was it a little bit different, Keith?
So it was, and I played in the era with his dad. I played with Sergei Fedorov his first year in Detroit. He defected.
Yep.
Slava Kozlov, same thing. Jaromir Jagr, my draft year was 5th. If he would have been free to go, he would have been the first overall pick. So the game has certainly become much more international and global from that perspective.
By the way, Kieffer, if the decision was mine as to what your nickname should be and the number you would wear, your name would be 24. And your number would be 24 because Kiefer Sutherland's television show is 24.
Yeah.
I go through a couple levels of incarnation. Don't just drop the last couple letters of the name. Would you like that as your nickname?
Hey, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, I remember growing up as a little kid, I still remember I'd be sitting there watching TV or something, and my parents would have 24 on. I could hear the clock ticking in the background.
It would. It was great little... well, here's a trivia question. It means nothing. Has nothing to do with the show. There's only one show in the history of television, guys, and you were around... Well, Keith's been around a while. Keith, for you, a little less. Every single show in television history has a theme song except one. Name that tune.
I got no.
One of the most successful shows in the history of television.
It didn't have a theme song.
Doesn't have a theme song. It's still on. It's been on for 55 years.
Still on?
Still on. Sunday nights on CBS. It's not 30 minutes. It's not 15 minutes. It's...
60.
Yeah, the stopwatch.
I guess we'll go with it.
Yeah, we might as well go with it there.
10 minutes?
10 minutes, that's right. That's well, never mind. There's a couple lines to go there. But... Kieffer, you're evolving here. You picked up on the waivers from the Flyers. How difficult is it to get used to a new team, a new culture, while you're trying to impress people at the same time? You were a first-round pick. Now you got to prove that again. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, obviously, at the time it came as a shock to me, and I didn't really know what to expect or think. I didn't see it coming at all. But
did you want another chance?
Absolutely. I think
not did you want another chance. When you were with the Islanders, did you sense maybe the jig's up here? Have a new coat of paint somewhere else?
I think when that happened at the time, I was just more so just what I just trying to think about what could I have done, what could I have done better, and I loved my time in New York. I loved every second of it, and we had a great group there. Lou Lamoriello was fantastic, and I can't thank him enough for every opportunity that he gave me. But as the time was going on during that 24-hour period that you are on waivers, I was just
24.
Yeah. Oh, true.
There we are.
But I was just praying that someone would see the potential in me to give me another opportunity to play in the NHL, and I was very thankful of Chuck Fletcher at the time to give me that chance to come play here. And I think obviously it's been a rough year with the team and stuff with our wins and losses, but the group that we have here, they brought me in and made me feel part of the team from day one, especially the vets like Konecki and Kevin Hayes, Ivan Provorov. Those guys have just been so welcoming, and Scott Lawton. I can't say enough about the guys here, how amazing they've been.
Lawton's one of my favorite people in the world. He's one of our favorite guests, just a tremendous guy. The only number or the only letter you have with the Flyers this year, still wearing the A, but kind of the captain without being the captain. You mentioned Lou Lamoriello. If Daniel Briere, Keith, can be 1/80th as successful as Lou Lamoriello, he'll have a hell of a career.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with someone today who's intimately connected or involved with Lou, and actually multiple people. His name came up several times in conversation today. As I'm working on with my chase, I'm trying to find him somewhere to play, and they just said he's just a man of integrity, right? When he says something, his word was his bond. And you can't always say that for people in and around the game, and that it's disheartening.
Are you saying that lying is part of professional sports sometimes?
Yeah, I am actually.
100% correct.
Yeah, and but with people like Lou Lamoriello, Glenn Sada was the other example. You just you knew if they told you something that it was real.
So you can ask for when somebody, your father or anybody else, your job, no matter what you do, just be honest with me and level it off. We're going to take a quick break. I want to ask Kieffer on the way back a question about whether you work on your strengths or weaknesses to try to impress new people. You can make cases for both. We'll see what Kieffer Bellows says. Continue on. Talk some Flyers. Keith Primeau, Kieffer Bellows, a beautiful crowd here at Chickies and Pizza Marlton. Come on up and say hi to Keith and Kieffer. Independence Blue Cross on the ice continues right after this. Stay with us, folks.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. It's all new and it's all for you. The heated deck at Chickie and Pete's on the Boulevard is now open. It's enclosed, heated, and perfect for the ultimate in-game experience or live music when the best local bands take the stage. Like LeComte, Fat Mez, or Jameson. Check our website for the band schedule. The heated deck at Chickie and Pete's on the Boulevard is now open every Thursday through Sunday. Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Learn more about your coverage options at ibx.com.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyers captain, Keith Primeau.
All right, final segment. Thanks for joining us as always. Kieffer Bellows, you played golf today on a rare off day. Any chance we see you at Augusta with Tiger and the boys anytime soon?
If I got a chance to play at Augusta,
if
I did, I'd be down there in a split second. But I don't have the skill set to be a part of that.
Yeah, are you an avid golfer?
I do love golf.
Do you?
Yeah, I play 5-6 days a week in the summer.
Really?
I try to. Yeah, I'm a very average golfer. I'll put it at that though. I enjoy time with the guys and golf with my dad, whoever it is.
You live in Minnesota in the summer?
Yes.
Hazeltine, the big course up there, right?
Yeah, that's a big one. A lot of guys belong there that I know. A couple of guys, like Casey Middlestad, plays for Buffalo Sabres. He's out there. Ryan Lindgren, New York Ranger. And, I'm out at Windsong Farms. It's good courses out there. I love it.
Courses in Minnesota are usually open for a week in the middle of June. But I'm just joking. But Brian, your dad, number 2 pick in the draft, played a long time, 1,200 NHL games. Fill us in on what he's doing today.
He's working. He's just working as an institutional trader for Piper Jaffray in Minnesota, and he's been doing that since I missed by a year or so, but I think since 2000 he's been doing it.
You ever want to go to Wall Street, Keith?
No. I mean, yes, to make money, but I have business interests that keep me busy during the course of the day when I'm not watching hockey games at night.
Not watching hockey games at night, which leads us to Kieffer. When you come to a new place, Kieffer, and all of us change jobs, change scenarios in life, doing whatever, and you have to think to yourself, in the conversations you have with yourself, do I emphasize my strengths to show Chuck Fletcher, John Tortorella that I'm very good at this, or do I emphasize my weaknesses to show that maybe I don't have as many weaknesses as people thought and I'm a more well-rounded player? How do you deal with that particular self-thought question?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think obviously, when you go play and practice and everything, I think your strengths of your game are really going to show. I think no matter what you do. But I think it's the time that you put in before and after practice that you work on your weaknesses and help those grow. And I think if they notice that, I think that's always a positive. But for me, it's like I said before, it's going out there the extra 15 minutes before or after, or even both, and just working on whatever you can to help improve your game. And I think that's just gonna. The more you do that, the more your game's going to grow, the bigger habits you're going to have.
How many guys do that now? Time before practice, time after practice. Because when I played, it was a blend, right? There was some guys you couldn't get off the ice, and then other guys.
Jim Rance, Yager, right?
Yeah, and then the other guys were as soon as the coach walked off, they were right behind him.
Yeah, I'd say I'm with this team right now. I think there's a good amount of guys that go out before. I'd say most of the guys. 95% of the guys are out there at least 10 minutes before practice starts. There's a few that get out there a little bit earlier, especially the goalies. They're working with their goalie coaches. But after practice, I'd say a majority of guys are staying out, whether it's just doing some fun, games, 2-puck, or just taking some one-timers, working on tips. And
that shows you enjoy hockey and you're willing to work, and it's a great thing for any team, right? Any player.
Absolutely.
Have you ever come screaming down the left wing at any level? I just can't believe I didn't ask you this before the show, but come down screaming down the left wing and find that you got to shoot, and Caden Primeau's been in the goal and you're not sure what to do. Have you ever played against Caden?
I believe we have. I mean, we've had to have before, and he's probably stuffed me a few times. I would say most of the time.
What about Chase, his other son?
He wouldn't have played against Chase.
I don't think so,
no.
What's Chase up to right now, Keith?
Chase is in Fort Lauderdale with his Notre Dame teammates.
Spring break, huh?
Sleeping till noon. and just kind of sitting there waiting by the phone. He's had lots of East Coast League interest, couple with potential AHL, ECHL deals. But he also hurt his hand the last weekend, Big Ten playoff weekend, and he sprained a ligament. So he's kind of been waiting to see if that heals before he jumps in. And I think he's at a crossroads too, whether he really wants to keep playing.
That time in all our lives, we have to say whether you.
Yeah, I mean he's 25 years old now, and he aged out. He was able to play a fifth year of college because of COVID, and I'm just not sure if he really wants to keep playing, or if he's ready to move on to the next chapter of his life.
All right, that's an interesting question because it moves along again. A perfect segue here. The longest word in the English language, Keith, is not supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It's not anti-disestablishmentarianism. I think it's in hockey. It's a different world. And expectations are a very long word because of what the public thinks. But in hockey, there's a word that the Flyers have avoided forever, that the fans have wanted them to acknowledge. It is what it is. You've been with teams that didn't win the cup, bad teams that needed to improve. The word rebuild. Is it time for the Flyers to acknowledge that word with the draft, with free agency? Danny's got a lot to do. You got to manage the cap. But it's not going to tell fans not to go to games. It's not going to say, don't pay attention to us for a couple of years. Why haven't they used that word, and is it time just to do that and acknowledge it?
Yeah, I think it started a few years ago, the stigmatism with the word rebuild, and people started using the word restock, retool.
Yeah.
And to me, a rebuild is a rebuild. Like I look at some of the Stanley Cup champions over the last 20, 25 years, and they went into full rebuilds, and they built through the draft, and they acquired players like Kieffer in different scenarios, trades, waiver wires, and you start to compile a core, a nucleus of good young players. And as they grow together, then you start to add these extra pieces. And to me, the perfect example is the Tampa Bay Lightning, the year we lost to them in the conference finals. 2 years prior to that, they had a group of very talented players: Brad Richards, Vinny Lecavalier, Martin St. Louis, Habibul, and a good core, but they didn't play the game the right way. They bring in Tim Taylor and Dave Andrechuk, and they go on to win a Stanley Cup because they brought leadership to the locker room. And that was at the end of a rebuild. The Washington Capitals is the same way. They compiled good young players. Ovechkin, was scoring 50 goals, but he wasn't playing the game the right way necessarily until, again, you bring in some veteran guys. They settle the locker room, and you go on to win championships.
All right, we only got about a minute and a half left. I want to ask each of you a question. Keith, this might be your last show this year. You've done a great job. We enjoy it. Talk about the Cup. Who's going to win the Cup this year?
So I don't think it's Boston. I don't know why. I just don't. They've been the best team all year, but
you never want to win the President's Trophy, do you?
Yeah, but I don't know what the next level. How much more of the next level they have? Okay. When it gets ratcheted up in the playoffs, other teams have a greater gap to.
I'll take Tampa.
So Tampa, you did because for obvious reasons, and then I like Carolina. I still like Carolina.
We will see. And Kieffer Bellows, just a second here. Tell everybody something good that you like about Phil. You're a new resident of our city. Hopefully, be here a long time. What do you love about Philadelphia?
I love the camaraderie that they have around all their teams. I love the setup that they have with all the arenas as well. That's pretty cool to see. I've never seen that before, and I love that. And
doesn't exist anymore.
I mean, just the support they have for all their teams is pretty incredible. It's awesome.
Wait till you got to get into the rink for a playoff game, and the Phillies are playing across the parking lot.
Hopefully, those days are soon ahead. Flyers not going to make the playoffs this year. Hopefully, they will in the future. And Kieffer Bellows will be a big part of it. Great to have him here. Wonderful kid. And we wish you the best of luck, Kieffer, in the future, and all good things in hockey and all good things in life. Thanks for being with us.
All right, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Preems, maybe your last show this year. Done a great job. Maybe you're back another show. Who knows? You got to be able to hit the curveball. Thanks for being with us tonight.
My pleasure.
All righty. This is for Chris Irmer, our producer, who enjoyed crab fries and shrimp here tonight. Beautiful chickens and peas. We love being here. This has been On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. We'll be here next week. I'll be on vacation. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Paul Holmgren will be our guest. For Keith Primeau and Kieffer Bellows, Keith Noonan back at the station, and our producer Chris Irmer, I'm Paul Jolovitz, saying have a great night, a great week, and go Flyers!
You're listening to 1490